Wow. Well, that's very humble of you as well. I mean, it's beautiful to hear. What were some of those final conversations like that you had with him that were potentially, I always felt like he was so philosophical and maybe more so in those moments?
Yeah, we did one public appearance, where we were being thoughtful about the friendship. Walt Mossberg had us on stage together, which was definitely a fun thing and surprised people because Steve was very harsh. He was always, he said we were the General Motors and he was like the Mercedes. But all in, it was all very fair. Well, we reflected that computers really hadn't improved education, and where both he and I had given speeches saying, of course, this will make education, 5 times better. And we were like, wow, we got that one wrong. Maybe next round we'll deliver on that promise. And how unusual it was, and even a little bit lonely that when you were so successful and then you're having doubts about, okay, are we making mistakes here? Both of us had kids by then. He was actually, of course, he not only did Apple, he did the Pixar stuff.
Mhm.
And because that was a realm I'm not in, I could sincerely tell him what a brilliant job he did. Now, partly picking people, but that's, kind of amazing. Now part of Disney, and both a sense of thankfulness, although, he was very sick and just hoping some new drug would come along, and tragically it didn't.
Yeah. Was there a memorable piece of advice or conversation where you said something to him or he said something to you that has stayed with you?
Well, the fact that, why were we both so competitive and pushing ahead? I think both of us, in his case, he's an orphan, so he has a more complicated childhood that maybe can explain his zeal. I don't have anything like that, even though Kent died, that's not why, well before that, I was somehow always, pushing as hard as I could be. And, I think both of us, being thankful for what we'd been able to work on. I mean, we got more of a front row seat and helped build this thing. Steve never got around to doing philanthropy. Now his widow, Lorene, is doing great philanthropy. So, that's, I'm sure he'd be proud of that. But he didn't get to that stage, and I was just getting into that stage. So I shared with him a little bit about, wow, a lot of children die, and we don't do much to stop that. And that kind of intrigued him, but then he never got to pursue it.